Welcome back to the Becoming More podcast, episode number 29. Before we get started, I'd like to ask everybody to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show. Here in Becoming More, we go in depth talking to some amazing people about how they have changed their lives dramatically and have inspired others to work towards the same. Today, I'm joined by a real estate developer, a best-selling author, and the subject of a documentary from Fat Lolli to Six Pack Lolli, the ultimate transformation story. And no, this is not a panel episode. Today, I am joined by Anthony Lolli. Anthony, how are you today?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Always great to get new voices. So, Anthony, one thing I like to ask everybody at the start of the episode is, what would you say is the bottom line of your journey so far? Because Anthony said so.
The bottom line is I cured myself from the obesity problem permanently. You know, I just didn't lose the weight. I kept the weight off, and it's a mental thing, and it's cured. That's the bottom line.
That's amazing. Because so many of us, especially me, I know myself, I lost 200 pounds and I've yo-yoed a little bit in the last few months is having some stressful things going on. Like I just told you off air, like moving and that stuff can really get you fired up and not doing the things you should do. So I like to go back into the background a little bit before we get rolling in the show. Like growing up, were you like a heavy kid? Were you in athletics? Yeah. What kind of stuff did you do where you got to the part where you knew you had to make a change?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was a fat kid growing up. You know, there wasn't much food science and food knowledge, especially for parents back then. They're shoving dairy and all of these products. And this was before they were putting calories as the law on certain products. So, you know, you really can't blame parents back then because there was a bunch of new things coming out in my generation. I'm 44. Mm-hmm. So during my generation, all this stuff was coming out and, you know, it just slowly creeps up on you, you know, and I remember just being, you know, the chubby kid and moms would kneel down next to their kid and they would say, hey, if you keep eating, you're going to look like that, you know, so I would get a lot of those type of things happening to me. And then it just snowballed. Then I was fatletic, you know, I would do, you know, sports, basketball, football. And I was able to move around and do what I needed to do. I was no jock by any stretch of the imagination, but I was able to play with friends and do things like that. But, you know, the weight kept creeping on. And I got to the point where I knew I needed to lose weight when I took interest in girls. You know, I was like, this is a problem here, you know. And so I crash dieted. I had a point in time where I lost a tremendous amount of weight, like 16, 17, 18, 19, something like that. But then the weight just started packing on right after that. You know, it got worse, you know. Mm-hmm. I did just enough to enjoy that small window of time. And it was very difficult. But that reason why, which was like having girlfriends and having fun, was big enough for me to kind of sustain it. And then that was it.
Yeah. And I feel like so many of us, we do those small crashes and then all of a sudden it all catches up to us because then we're like, I'm kind of tired of this. And like, you might not say that to yourself, but you kind of go through that emotion. Right.
Yeah.
And then you're like I know for me, it was always, today it was funny because on Facebook, I saw this post. It was like I remember this kind of thing, and it was like Taco Bell when they had the inside, and it was like the cheesy 90s Taco Bell interior with the plastic seats and all that. And I was like, yeah, I remember that because Taco Bell was so cheap because it was like $1, you know, less than $1 for a taco. And
exactly,
because I'm 38, so I'm not that far behind you,
right?
And you know, back then it was so much easier to get access to things. I mean, it's easier to get access to things now, but I feel like it was easier then because there wasn't so much everybody's up your ass about everything on your phone and social media, and like you kind of could just be yourself and not have people know where you are all the time and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you know, the 90s were a much different time than now.
Yeah.
So you talked about like your crash diet and all that. So what was the point where you decided, hey, I need to make a change? Like the last time when
well, you know, I tried like 9 times. I tried every diet, Atkins, this, that, acupuncture. I mean, I had tried almost every witch doctor you could think of and all sorts of different things. And then I even hired a nutritionist many years ago, but she gave me all sorts of foods I didn't like and I wasn't going to eat. And I yesed her to death. And then when she left, I didn't eat any of it, you know? So it was a point where I had achieved a lot of personal and professional success in the business world and in my family. My wife had been on my back. My mom, I mean, we had interventions in the house like, hey, you got to lose weight. You know, I was going to the hospital for sleep apnea. I was having trouble breathing, having chest pains. I mean, it was, you know, it was one of these things when you're obese, your body starts telling you something. You start feeling like these sharp pains. And it's interesting how the body can adapt to it. You know, I used to get the sharp pains at 275 pounds. Then when I would stay at 275, it would only happen if I went from 295 to 300, I would start getting the sharp pains. Then at 300, I kind of build a tolerance to it, and it would only happen at 305. It just kept going up and up and up. And then finally at 315 is when the breathing and the sleep apnea and all that kind of stuff started kicking in. And, you know, we were at a restaurant, and I enjoyed going out to eat, obviously. And my wife was always on a health kick. You know, she always wanted to do the right thing for the children and teach them good food. And the kids would always wonder why they couldn't eat what I was eating, you know, why they had to eat the healthier things. And it was always kind of like I was setting the wrong example. The kids would want to eat my food. And one time my daughter, who was 2.5 at the time, reached over for some French fries, and my wife got fed up and she said, you know what, don't eat that or you're going to get fat. Now, she didn't know what that word meant at the time. So she showed her a video about obesity and how obesity kills. And then my daughter looked at me and said, Daddy, you're fat. I don't want you to die. And it dawned on me, you know, my wife had told me about, you know, the kids are going to start going to school. They're going to start picking on them because their dad is fat. I mean, this is so true because it's happening today to a lot of the clients that come to my company. And I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want, you know, my children to suffer or be made fun of or, you know, be in an uncomfortable situation because I just couldn't control what I put in my mouth. I was saying, Anthony, you could do anything you put your mind to. And so that was it. The next day, I decided to actually apply. I went to the gym that I was already a member of for like 9 years that I never went to. And then, you know, I was one of those guys that I felt like I didn't want to give up hope. So I kept the membership paying, you know, kept paying and paying just to be a part of it. Because I know if I stop paying, then I'm totally giving up, you know. So that was it. I hired a personal trainer and then I started going at it.
Yeah. And one thing I always like to bring up to people too is when they go to a gym or whatever is to get a personal trainer. And I know a lot of people always will say, well, it's expensive to have a personal trainer. I know like mine. So mine, when I started working with her a year ago, it was like $40 a session. So it's like, it's not that expensive.
It's not. Mine was $35.
Yeah.
It's really, and then you know what? Like people think you have to be mega rich or, you know, people have coaches all the time. I compete and there's people on stage and backstage. They're not millionaires. Like they're regular people. When I'm in the gym, I see so many people with personal trainers. If they were super wealthy, I should just go there to network if that's the case. They're just regular people, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, I think it's this misconception that people have, or, you know, just because if you have a trainer you do the training, like it's an expensive thing. You got to have a lot of money to do that. And sometimes it's just one of those things where you got to like kill the stigma around it. Cause I mean, $40, if you only use them, even if you don't do it every week, if you do like once every 2 weeks or once every month, like even that will help you prepare for the next time you work with them. Cause I know every time I work with mine, kicks my ass.
Yeah.
and that's the whole point.
That
right?
Accountability, you know, you need that accountability. You need guidance. Look, I just took an approach that I would with anything else. You know, if I bought a piece of land and I wanted to build a property on it, I would hire the right contractors. You know, if you want to get some dental work done, you're going to hire the right dentist. This is probably the most extensive thing that a person does going on a weight loss journey, you know, close to brain surgery, because you're literally doing science on your body. You know, and you need to know what you're doing, and you don't. You're the worst coach in the world. You got to hire help.
Yeah, and even when you're someone that's lost weight, so you can lose weight, but then you'll get back in these patterns. It's kind of like the crash diet thing, right? Because you know what you have to do to a certain extent, but then all of a sudden, like your brain will get back in like a comfort mode, and then you'll slide right back down that hill of going right back to where you were, and you don't want to be there because you know what you need to do. you know where you want to be, and what you need to do is usually get some external help. I mean, I currently work with a nutritionist because I know I need that help, because even though I could do it on my own, I could do a lot of this on my own. I could be like, it was like, I could follow these plans and just keep doing it by myself. But I'm like, if I don't have that person, like I'm not accountable to anyone but myself. And then I'll usually slip at some point.
Exactly.
You know? Cool. So kind of transitioning from that, what I want to talk about is the documentary, because I watched it. I know that it's on Amazon, Apple, YouTube, wherever you want to get it. And so when you started in the gym, you started, I believe it was July 16th, 2018.
Yeah. Yep.
Ironically, July 15th, 2018 was the day I started my journey.
Wow.
And you know, so like same 2 days. But I saw in the documentary that you had started recording like right away.
Right away.
So you knew that you wanted it. Did you know you wanted to do something like this, or was it just that you did? Okay.
100%. I knew that this was my accountability. I knew that if I put a business component to it, and I knew that I wanted to be an inspiration to others. And I knew that because my daughters and my wife and my son were involved in terms of not letting them down, I knew I was going to go all the way. So might as well film.
Yeah, it's amazing. The one thing now, because you know, when I started myself, I had no idea what I was doing, and I just followed like a Weight Watchers diet at first, because I was like, I can follow this, and I did it for like a year, and I was 100 pounds in like 8 months or whatever. And I wish I had taken more pictures at the beginning, because like I don't have, or video or anything, like, because if you see my Instagram posts, a lot of it's the same. I use the same stock. Like I have so many pictures at my heaviest. Occasionally, one will come up in a Facebook memory that I haven't seen in a while, or I didn't have on my camera roll or whatever, and I'll incorporate that. But usually, it's a lot of the same cycle of ones, and I'll just use new photos with it. Because like I was kind of, you know, it's also that I was embarrassed, and then I was also like, it's a certain amount of shame, and then it's also, I've been through other diets in the past. Like I had tried, like, remember in the 90s, I tried like that cabbage diet. My parents had me do that cabbage diet thing. That was awful. I hate cabbage to this day. And other ones, you know, I tried like I think it was called like right size smoothies in the 2000s. That was just a smoothie thing where meal replacement. And I lost a good amount with that too. But then eventually I got tired of it. And even in this journey, I've found that I kind of had to adapt it. I evolved it over the course of the 3 years I've been on it. Cause the first year was like this Weight Watchers diet, and I got tired of it after a while. And then I switched to doing my own thing. And then the last year has been like working with nutritionists, professionals to help me get to the next step. Cause I mean, I was over 600. So I've lost to over 200. And now I want to hit like get in the low threes and eventually get to the twos. And I want to see that end goal. Cause now I have a daughter she's 6 months old, like this week.
Oh, wow.
So thank you. So, you know, I see her and I'm like, I don't want to be this way, but I know I'm way better than I was at the same time. So it's always those, like, it's like that balance that I feel like you see in the community. So many people, like, as soon as they F up, they'll like blame themselves, hate themselves, like just kind of go in a cycle. And you're like, and even me, like I've gained recently, but I try to give myself a little bit of grace, and I'm like, I know what I need to do next. So that's why, like, I got a new nutritionist and you know, and I was a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, and we started on a plan and kind of sticking to it and seeing where it goes. Especially tough is the holidays, because you see all the stuff you want that you can work in. Like I worked in pumpkin cheesecake I was like, I wanted a slice. So you can work things in. It's not like you have to be in like a prison, right? Forever.
100%. It depends on what your ultimate goals are. It's all about macros. I mean, in my company, we can make people lose weight on McDonald's. You want to do it the healthy way, or you just want to lose weight? You know, I know some professional bodybuilders that, you know, they get ripped, but they're eating Taco Bell, and they're just counting macros, but they pack on muscle and do what they got to do. I mean, food is such a miracle thing that it can make you or break you, and then you can manipulate it so much. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So I was kind of curious, because I'm also I consider myself a film buff, so I'm always interested in the background, behind the scenes stuff of movies and movie making and all those things. So when you were making the documentary, like once you got it to a point where you wanted to show it, like it's edited and all that, what was the point where you got it, like someone, like a company, interested in purchasing it or buying, or
well,
like
what happened was I had filmed it on my cell phone, and I got it to a certain point. And this was before I competed. So I got it to a certain point, and I was watching Amazon Prime, and I saw a show called Radical Body Transformations. It was a show about people mainly competing and transforming their lives, some regular people doing transformations. And it said, if you have an interesting story, submit it. So I submitted my mini documentary that I put together. At the time, it was only a half hour. And the owner of the company, who's now my partner, because I bought into the company, James, he flew down from Canada. He said, I've never seen a transformation like yours in my life.
Wow.
And we started talking, and we hit it off. And then my partner Carlos and myself and James, now we all own Radical Body Transformations, which is now taking on a larger than life role in the fitness industry. But so he said, why don't you turn it into a full-fledged documentary? What do you got going on? I said, look, I'm going to compete. And he said, why don't you just finish competing and film that? Because that's really cool. That's like a nice ending, And then I hired a guy from England who became the director of the film, and he came and put the pieces of the puzzle together. And my partner Carlos and James and everybody put their minds on how to edit the film. And Keith did a wonderful job, really, really telling the story and putting the pieces of the puzzle so it's interesting, and timelining it all, and really doing the best with integrating cell phone footage with really high definition camera footage, So it was amazing what he did. It's actually been nominated 8 times and won 2 independent film awards for best documentary. So that, I never expected that ever. There's guys that are filmmakers for many years that wish to have that, and this is my first documentary, and it's about something I'm so passionate about. It is winning and getting nominated. So it hits Amazon Prime in July, which was interesting because it was like the anniversary of when I had started. Mm-hmm. And the pandemic hits, and it starts taking off because everybody's consuming content at home, in particular health and wellness content, because people are sick and dying, and also people are putting on the COVID weight. So then we started translating it into 52 languages. So it became like a global thing where 95 million people watched it. And then we started instantly, we started getting recognized in the street. My wife, the kids, my mom, everybody who's in the documentaries, getting people taking pictures with us. And then now, when we walk into the gyms, people recognize us, which is cool. So it behind the scenes, that was pretty much it. That was pretty much how it took off, and it's been history ever since. Now we're working on a part 2, which we just finished shooting, which is going to be a docu-series. Because the documentary ends on, I couldn't compete because of COVID. My uncle died, my trainer died, and all this kind of stuff. I just did the one competition at that time. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, I competed again 7 times this year in 2021 once the competitions were up, and I won a bunch of different things, including my pro card. I competed in different federations: NPC, Pure Elite, WBFF, and Summer Shredding. I did all these competitions and got to know the federations inside. So we documented all that. So it's going to be pretty cool. And at the same time, I trained my wife, and she became a two-time pro based on my training.
Hey, that's amazing. All of it. I mean, the 95 million views on Amazon, the 52 languages. It's just amazing what can happen in just, by your own efforts, and then just by how, you wouldn't have that if the story wasn't great, right? Because the story's great. Because you can go through Amazon, you can click, and you're like, "What's this? Oh, this looks interesting." And then you're like, 5 minutes later, you're like, "I'm out." And exactly. So that's clearly not happening. So that's amazing. So you brought up Radical Body Transformations. I know you're doing a transformation challenge starting in 2022. You want to talk about that a little bit and give?
Yeah, we're doing a transformation challenge, which is awesome because the prizes are not only money, up to $52,000 you can win in cash prizes with coaching, free coaching packages, supplements. But one of the biggest things is a cosmetic surgery. In the documentary, we talk about the fact that I had loose skin after losing all that weight. And this is a very common problem. And it's going to happen. It happens to pregnant women that are pregnant just for 9 months. They get loose skin. Mm-hmm. I was fat for 41 years. You know what I mean? So yeah. There was no escaping it. There's no cream. There's no secret sauce. You're going to have to chop it off, and that's that. So we're basically the winner of the challenge has the opportunity to get a free plastic surgery, which is pretty awesome, and we have the details on our website, rbtshow.com, but we have challenges every 3 months. These 90-day challenges, this is our third one. And we have people that are signing up to do it. This is their third time doing it. We've had people lose 200 pounds, people lose 50 pounds, 250 pounds. I mean, it's an amazing thing. As somebody that is now working with the nutritionist, that is key. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we team you up with a nutritionist coach that's going to give you a workout plan and a customized meal plan where you can put in that pumpkin pie, you can put in that cookie, you can put in the things that are going to be able to keep you sane and keep you in the diet, because the best diet is the one that you can sustain. That's the real truth. And so I found the secret sauce to losing weight and keeping the weight off. It's two things: having a coach and a nutritionist, but more importantly, having one that you respect that was used to be obese or understands how to work with people that are obese. And that's the people that we have. We have a lot of former transformed people that are coaches for us now. So they go from client to coach. So they know how to talk to you and so forth. So we coach them through this process. We give them the meal plans. We give them the exercises. Then we have like this online community, because it's all about community. So we have like a Facebook group. Everybody's rooting for each other. And so this is an online challenge that's going to lead to a stage appearance too. So not only is this online, but if you want to, you can qualify and go on stage. So we're hosting like an actual stage competition for people that want to do that. So it's really an amazing thing, to be able to. I've competed 9 times so far. I've had to pay. I wish I was paid to lose weight, but this is literally getting paid to lose weight, so it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, for sure. I've done a few 5Ks, and whenever I do them, it's always like I'm paying like $30-$40 to do a 5K, and I'm like, I used to be the person that'd be like, who would pay to run or walk or whatever, right? Yeah. So it's always it's an interesting flip that we all do in our own mindsets once we get to that point.
Right.
Which is again amazing. I think it's awesome that you do the challenge. You're doing this challenge, and I know for me, I had a ton of excess skin, and I actually got some. I had some removed from a different kind of surgery, not an abdominoplasty, but like a paniculectomy. It doesn't look as nice, but it got rid of some of the excess, and it was covered by insurance, so that's always the plus.
That's good. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's an awesome prize because it's not cheap, and I know plenty of people. I know a few friends online in the community that have gotten their surgeries, and it's just, I know it's a lot. So
I paid $40,000 for mine. I got a buddy. His name is Chris Murphy. He just paid $20,700 for his. Mm-hmm. And you don't know. Everyone's different. Some people need to do it on the arm, on the chest, on the stomach. So it can really go up there on the legs. Yeah. It can really, really, go up there in price. So.
And a lot of times I know they can also, because of there might be a complication with a certain area and they can't do all of it at once. So then you have to come back, and then it's more cost, right? Because
100%,
because doctors don't work for free.
Yeah, they don't. They don't even take a consultation for free. Like in the documentary, I talked about that. I actually had to pay for. I met a dozen plastic surgeons. Each one of them wanted $500 to $1,000 just to sit down and talk to them, because they, otherwise they won't have a life talking to every prospect, So, but then I settled on one that I really thought was fit the mold.
And hey, and I mean, you look great, because I mean, I saw a documentary, and I recommend everybody to go check it out. And it looks like it worked out really well, right? Because I mean, you also sometimes hear this horror stories you hear, and some people just don't want surgery. I mean, I know when I had my surgery, I was like, I'm not like apprehensive to surgery, but I had issues that I knew I needed to get it. So I was like, I'm getting this done. And, if you want it, I'd say try to do it if you can. Try the challenge. But definitely, because I know my thing was, it annoyed me because I used to have this excess skin that would just like flap against my leg all the time when I would be walking, and I'm like, I'm really tired of this. And now I don't have it, and I'm like, I don't miss that. At all, right? Even though it was a small change in terms of like something happening, but it just was like, I'm so glad I don't have that anymore.
You got to look at it like this. You were a dead man walking. Something would happen. You know what I mean? Especially at the weight you were at.
Oh, well, it did. I had a pulmonary embolism.
Yeah.
Blood clot. So yeah. So that was pretty much my wake up call.
Yeah. So like this is like a brand new life. This is like a reincarnation, you know.
Yeah,
So
I always say it's bonus time. That's what I like to.
yeah,
Because PEs, like half the people don't survive them. Like
right.
have them. I don't know if it's 40 or 60, somewhere in that range, that they don't survive them. So like I'm like, everything's bonus time, so I'm gonna make the most of it. That's
Yep.
how I've
Yep.
looked at life since then. And that was 5 years ago.
Right.
Even though it took me 2 years almost to or a year and a half to really get going, but it was like a year and a half of like just like kind of staying the course. And then I was like, I gotta figure it out, because I can't do this anymore. I remember, I mean, I know you're in New York. I was in LA for a vacation. I was just walking around, and I'm walking around in sweatpants because I had all this excess skin, so I couldn't really wear shorts because it hung low, right? It wasn't even excess skin; it was just stomach. So I wouldn't wear shorts. So I went in sweatpants in LA in May, and I'm like walking around. I'm winded. I can't do the walk of fame because I'm like so winded, and I'm just
Wow.
like, it's just like one of those things where I can't do this anymore. So it's why and then I started like about a month later, and just since then it's been good because it's, even at my current weight in the 200 down, it's still like such a difference. And I'm sure like as soon as you hit like that first, you hit milestones along the way, and you're like, I can't believe I let that go for that long.
For me, weight loss, doing it the proper way, is the only thing that gives you instant gratification, because it's like working at a brand new job, and the first week your paycheck is $1. The second week your paycheck is $100. The third week it's 1,000. The fourth week it's 10,000. The fifth week it's 100,000. So at one point you get that million. So a lot of people stop at that million. What I mean by that is, the first week you're not going to really see any results, but then the second week, and so the clothes starts fitting looser. You're able to do the exercises, do more reps. You're getting less winded, so you're constantly, on a high.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why you would quit. It's kind of like quitting that job after you hit that $1 million check. You're telling the boss, no, don't, stop paying me. This is too much. This is too much of a reward. You start losing the weight. You got to get addicted to those wins, because you're winning. And yes, the hardest part is that it's repetitive. The hardest part is you can rest on your laurels, because anything looks better than the beginning, so you're like, wow, that I look great, compared to what I looked like before. But you can actually have your dream body. That's the crazy thing about this. I've achieved my dream body so many different times. I have to invent a new one just to keep myself going, because I reach all of these milestones. And it's only because I have this attitude of like, reach for the stars. I mean, reach for the moon. Worst case, you land on the stars, So I like to just set my target real high. And I think for someone like you've already shattered somebody else's dreams with the amount of weight that you've lost. Like, people wish,
Mm-hmm.
So you're like already in the Champions Club, so you might as well, keep going.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, I am. I just, the last, it's funny too, because you mentioned the pandemic and people like that gained that pandemic weight. And it's funny because during the pandemic I was sitting around, like the first couple of weeks we were off from work, and I was just sitting around, like I was like watching movies and stuff. I was down like 120 130 at that point, and I was like, I was like, I really can't let this opportunity go to waste. I'm never gonna have this much time free again, right? And so I was like, well, what can I do? Because the gyms were closed, and I was like, and I mean, I could do the diet. I could figure out my diet and do that.
Right.
So I kind of like refocused on my diet, and then I refocused on. I was like, well, I can go walking. Like I had walked, so I started going walking like every day. I remember this was like April of 2020, and I was doing like, and my goal, my watch was like 7,000. So I was just doing 7,000 at first, the first week or two. And then I was like, I can bump it to 10. So I did 10. And like, I was doing like 10 for like until, and in late May, I had to go back to work. And that was the first Friday I was back at work, was the first day I didn't hit 10,000 in like 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then I was so pissed at myself because I did that. Because I was like, one of those things where I was like at work and I didn't take breaks to go walk. And then I left work and I had like 5,000 steps. I'm like, I don't feel like doing this. So I went home and didn't do it. So that Saturday, I got back on it because I was pissed at myself that I stopped. And from that Saturday, I didn't miss another 10,000 until December 7th. So from Memorial Day to December 7th. So it was like 191 days.
Wow.
Which I only know that because it's coming up in like in a couple of days of the year after that. And you know, I hit that 191, and it was like after a while, it's funny because you kind of alluded to this a little bit before, is when you start doing something for a while, it becomes so like ingrained in you, like a routine. And like you can do it like every day. You're just like used to it. Like it's part of you. And like I actually enjoyed it because I don't like treadmills, so I didn't do treadmills. I walked around outside all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I'm in Maryland, so it's not bad weather usually. We don't get a
Right.
ton of snow like you guys do in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we get some. But you know, I just started walking around the neighborhood, and then you start even doing that, you get a high from when people are come up to you and they're like you're doing real good, or you're like I got a lot of that. And at first I didn't know how to respond to it because I just be like, oh, thank you. Like I had no idea. And then, you know, I would just keep getting it over and over. And then I stopped walking, and then I started again. I do it intermittently. I don't do it every day in the neighborhood because of work and stuff, but I would I'll see somebody there, like, I haven't seen you in a while, you're still looking good, or something like that, you know. And those are highs, and the same high comes from like I know I experienced those highs of losing weight too, because when I see the scale number go down, or when I like I remember when I finally could go to a regular store. Like I could go to
Right.
Kohl's. I still had to go in the big and tall section, but I could shop inside of not a DXL. So it,
Yeah.
like, was the best because it was so much cheaper. And it was
Right.
like one of those teary eye kind of moments because I'm like, I can finally wear this shirt, like short. It was a 4X, but I could wear their clothes, right?
Right.
And not have to pay $40 for a t-shirt when I can spend like 12
Right.
at Kohl's or at JC Penney or Target, wherever it might be. And you know, those are like the non-scale things are so much more for me now than the scale, because the scale doesn't always move, but your body changes, right? You notice like you've lost the weight, you've lost inches, or you're able to fit, like you can go down to like a size in clothes, or you can belts get looser, and you know things. Or like my big one last year was I got on an airplane, didn't need the extender. So I was
Yeah.
like super
Yeah.
thrilled with that. And you know, I
Yeah.
kind of had a feeling that would happen. So I wore like a bright yellow shirt. So you would see the seatbelt in my photo when
Yeah.
I took
That's funny.
and but I found that those things, like those non-scale victories, were always like the biggest thing for me after the initial 100. Because after the
Yeah.
initial 100, like after you hit 100, it's kind of like the thing where you did with like the $1, $10, $100. After you hit 100, the next big goal is another 100, right?
Exactly.
So then you need something in between. So like, and you could say 50, but really if you hit 100, you want to hit another 100. So
Right.
the like those non-scale, like sitting in a booth in a restaurant, sitting using a seatbelt extender,
Or not breaking a restaurant chair. I broke restaurant chairs.
So I was always super careful. Even at 600 pounds, I never broke one.
Never
I
broke.
was always, and I always had to get a table because I couldn't get a booth because I was
Right.
too big.
Right.
So I
Right.
was always like super careful. Like I'd sit down in a chair and I'd almost like kind of squat in it at first. So I would be
Yeah.
like, I know it's not going to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was always afraid. The only thing I did break once was one of those camping chairs. Like somebody's
I
like,
was
oh,
breaking my toilet seats, the plastic ones.
really?
They snap right in half, you know, like just sitting on the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to get like a really good thick one that wouldn't crack, you know?
Yeah. And that's, again, those things of being obese to the point that a lot of us are or have been. And, you know, it's just like, I guess it's like you live with it, right? You live with it. And then, like you said, you want to get to the point where you can cure it, because you want to get to a point where you can manage it, or however you want to say it. Because so many of us have such trouble. And I I love what you're doing with the rbtshow.com.
Thank you.
I think that's great. I think because I feel like so many people see, especially on like online on Instagram, you see a lot of people saying they're like coaches, and you don't really know if they what the results are, because you'll see a couple clients that they have, and you're like, okay, but a lot of times it's, are you showing the same clients over and over again, or are you showing like a body of work, which obviously you have, right?
Right.
Like sometimes it's like I've seen the same 3 clients in all your posts. Like I don't know if you're actually gonna do it. And even like sometimes there's a nutritionist where, you know, you might be working with somebody and like they'll give you a meal plan, but you're not really working towards fixing your mind on the meal plan. So you're following the meal plan, but if it was left up to your own devices, you might not. So that's another thing. Like what you're showing is, especially with someone,
we have a variety of coaches. What we do is we match people with coaches. Some people want that accountability, and some people you just give them instructions and they'll fly. But having the ability to check in, or having the responsibility to check in with your coach with pictures, with actual communication on a every other day or weekly basis or everyday basis. I mean, we have plans for that fits what you're looking for. For some people that have a more serious situation and they're really fed up and they really want to make that change, we can make it happen. It's not impossible. I'm a living example of it. You are too, and so are so many others. It is possible. The way I look at obesity is you have to first admit you have a problem, right? So here it works. Imagine you break your arm. The first thing you need to do is repair it and put it in a cast, right? So when you put it in a cast, you can't do the same things you were doing before. You have to be careful. So in the obesity analogy, the cast is the diet. The cast is right now your body's broken. So we need to go in there, do some repair, and put a cast around your mindset and put you on a diet that you can sustain. And then we'll slowly remove that. What happens when you remove the cast? You have atrophy, right? So the muscle's not there. So you got to kind of slowly go into therapy and build the muscle. Same thing. So once we get you out of the danger zone, then we slowly start. And throughout this entire process, we teach you about macros, how to weigh your food. When you start making healthy choices, you're like, I don't want to eat this because I'm going to feel this way. We tell you, you're going to feel sleepy. You're going to feel peppy. You're going to feel this way. You're going to have a headache. All these things, you start understanding what foods do to your body and how food helps you, makes you or breaks you during your workout. Then you're going to subconsciously and consciously make decisions. You say, instead of that pizza, I'm going to have that burger because there's more protein in it. There's no benefits in that pizza. If I'm going to have the pizza, I know I'm having it as a super cheat meal. It's not going to give me any benefits at all. And then you're going to start thinking to yourself, I'd rather just accomplish my goal, because with our help, you're going to start seeing drastic changes. And then on top of that, we like to surround you around a community of people. And what they say is the man with no shoes felt bad until he saw the man with no feet. And then you start seeing people that are heavier than you, in worse situations than you, missing a limb or living out of a truck or whatever the situation is. And you're like, that motivates you. Like, man, I have no excuse right now. This person's doing it and they're looking up to you. And then, so there's so many things that we do to kind of like legit cure obesity, because it is an addiction. It is a problem, and it does require a psychological cure. The physical part we can do, but the whole point is when we're not there, what choices are you going to make? And that's what we really focus on.
Yeah. And that's great. Cause if like I was saying, like sometimes you can get so wrapped up in just what you're following a plan and you're not really thinking about what you're doing. And right. So I love that's a big part of what you do. So awesome. So I just wanted to give you a chance because I'm kind of getting towards the end here where I'm going to ask you some wrap up questions. Yeah. But I wanted to see if there's anything else you wanted to add before we get to that point, or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I think that going into this weight loss journey, I had no idea that this was going to be as big as it's becoming. It's really becoming big. And, going out there, I knew that there was a big weight loss community, but there's a bigger community than I thought of weight loss winners, people that have actually lost the weight, kept the weight off. And I'm so happy because we're actually bringing platforms, bringing other platforms into our space, because it's you have to really dig and hunt to find even shows like yours, and what we're doing is we're curating all of this and putting it on our platform so that we can be a resource and a hub for someone that, not only wants to hear what we have to say, but what others have said and gone through podcasts like yours and shows like yours and others. And we just want to be the one-stop shop for information, for help, for guidance, for inspiration, for competing, for all your needs, because that's what I would have liked when I got into the weight loss journey. I mean, you actually joined a few communities here and there, but there wasn't like the full package of what you needed, because even till this day, you ended up going to a nutritionist. You know what I mean? So it was like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, and it solved the problem to a degree, but not fully. And so we know the answer and the cure to obesity, and we have it, and we want to just let the world know about it.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. Because I know when I started my journey, like because I didn't start right away, and I was looking around and I was like, I have no idea. And I always thought, I am never gonna be able to lose. I never thought I'd lose 200 pounds. I had no idea because it seems, especially it seems impossible. And but one of the things I like, it's a quote I like to use I used to use in my Instagram posts all the time, and it was a quote from a Joe Rogan interview. It's become like a viral video where it was where he says like nothing is impossible, but it's not going to be easy, right? It's a hard, long road to do whatever, but nothing, because anybody can do. I mean, people lose their limbs and they walk, right? Because there's ways to get with technology, and we have all this technology right here on our phones, right?
Yeah.
That didn't really show up because of my background, but we have all this technology on our phones that used to be a supercomputer in like years ago, and like we have all at our fingertips, and if we just can find it, like that's what we need. So I love, like I said, I love what you're doing because it just sounds great, and it's definitely got results because clearly you have it and other clients of yours have it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up here, what I call Brett's Corner, which is 5 questions. I ask everybody the same 5. And then I always, because it's Christmas, I throw in a bonus question. I ask everybody as well. So you get 6. So number 1 is, what movie, TV show, or event are you most excited for in the coming year?
I'm into a lot of different shows. I like Billions on Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
There's a show called Billions. I like this other show I'm into because I'm from, but it might even be, no, it's not based from where it's called BMF, Black Mafia Family, 50 Cent. I like that show. So I'm into and then Ozark. I'm looking forward to the next
definitely
sort of Ozark, in terms of shows like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
TV shows.
Billions. I was really into Billions when it first came out, and I just love the line when he goes, "What's the point of having FU money if you never say FU?"
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right. Number 2. What are 2 non-health related goals you have for the next year?
Well, right now we're working on a couple of television shows. So we have a manager now, and we're managed by a pretty big talent management agency. They're shopping around a couple of show concepts about myself, my wife, and the kids. So I'm excited to see that materialize. And then, of course, the business. I'm really focused on growing this business. I was away for a year competing. I was still running the business through my partner, Carlos. But, when you're dieting and doing back-to-back and peaking back-to-back, your mind is not fully sharp when you're really dieting that hard. So now I'm back. I'm actually on a bulk for the next 3 months. It's been already 2 months, so I'm going on a massive bulk, putting on some more muscle. So I'm happy, very happy right now. A lot of carbs, a lot of calories. And so I have my mind really, really sharp right now. And so I'm really focused on the business. 2022 is going to be a epic year for us. So I'm excited for that on the business front.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I can't wait to see and hear more about what happens for you in 2022 as we get to this point next year.
Yeah.
So number 3, if someone came to you saying they were lacking motivation to stay consistent, what 3 pieces of advice would you give them?
You have to find your why. You need a strong enough why. You can buy your motivation and consistency by hiring a coach, because that coach can get in your head, and it's just like the world's greatest athletes have a coach. It doesn't matter if you're Floyd Mayweather, undefeated boxer, he has a coach in his corner. It doesn't matter if you're a basketball player, a star bat, everyone has a coach. And they say certain things in that ring. Think about Rocky and Mickey. What Mickey told him in his ear. You need that. This is a fight for your life. This is a fight for your dreams. So that's number 2. You need that coach. You can buy that. Thank God you can buy it. You can rent it, and get a nutritionist and stuff, which is stuff that we provide. And the third thing is birds of the same feather fly together. And it's what I mentioned before. You want to join a community group. And for everybody watching or listening to this, they can join ours if they don't know of others. But ours is called Radical Body Transformations Facebook Community Group. And it's an open platform for people to share their highs and lows. And our coaches chime in and give them free advice. And they'll be super motivated because they're going to be surrounded around like-minded individuals. So those are the 3 main components.
Yeah, the last one's has been a big one for me. It's just like getting yourself with like-minded folks who have like goals, and you might not have the same goal, but you have goals and you can kind of push each other. Exactly. It's just great to have that kind of community. All right, number 4. What have you discovered about yourself during your journey or transformation that surprised you the most?
that I could erase 41 years of damage that I did to my body in 9 months. I was like, wow, that's it. I ate like an asshole for 41 years and I could erase it in 9 months. That was pretty amazing. I was shocked. You know what I mean? Because it took me all those years to put it on. And every time I was doing a sit-up, every time I was doing a rep, I thought about the mozzarella sticks. I thought about the French fries. I thought about the pint of ice cream I would have every night and the whole pizza pie. You know, I was just basically erasing all of that. And then doing the skin surgery was like a brand new man. I'm like, holy shit, this was not a bad deal. You know, erased it all like in 12 months. You know, it was like, this is great. And this is possible. I was like, holy shit, this is possible. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I know we didn't touch on it too much, but I know you mentioned that you had sleep apnea, right?
Yeah.
Did that also went away with the weight
It
loss?
went away right away. As soon as I lost like 15, 20 pounds, went away right away. It started affecting my brain because I wasn't getting enough oxygen in my brain. And as a businessman, I mean, Jesus, like I need my brain, you know, like, and it was bad, man. I started losing memory. There's a lot of things were happening to me. And it was just getting worse. And right away, it was the first thing that was cured was that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I know a lot of people might not know they have it, so I always recommend people get checked out with sleep studies and such. If you like know that you're not like you're gasping for air in your sleep. I mean, I use a CPAP. I still have to use one, but getting there, like I started with the whole mouth, the whole like triangle over my face. Now I'm down to just the nose. So it's getting better, but it still needs some more work. All right, question 5. If in 150 years science fails to save us and all that is left is a book about your life, not your book though, another book, what would the title be and what would the blurb tell us about Anthony?
When I wrote the original book that you talked about, The Heart of the Deal, that was like mainly because I saw The Wolf of Wall Street. I said, they did a movie about that guy because he wrote a book first. I was like, maybe they'll do a movie about me. So, but the problem is that book only it stops at the point of where I'm 315 pounds. It doesn't go into this. So I think, you know, the book would be about someone that decided to make a change, and not only for himself. I think of like what I did and what I'm doing. It's like I'm not keeping it to myself, and there's people that go on Instagram and they show off their transformation, and that's cool and it's inspirational. But I want to tell you, and this is how I did it, and you can do it too. And here are the tools. You know what I mean? There's like a big difference there. So, you know, and when I was trying to find inspiration online, you see a lot of before and afters, you see all this stuff, but I mean, who did this? How do you do it? Like, how can I, you know what I mean? Like, how is it attainable? So I just want to cut to the chase. So I think, you know, I want to be able to make a difference and save lives. And I think the book would talk about that, because even to this day, I'm getting people now, they're saying we cured their diabetes, you know, and people are thanking us for saving their lives. You know, they're like knocking on death's door. So my personal goal as a company is to lose 1 million pounds around the world, for starters. So we want to do that, because when you really think about what's the main killer of humankind, it's obesity.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's great. I mean, like the book is, I love that someone that decided to make a change. Just a great title. And I always like to tell people I like that question because it gives everybody's answer is different. Like some of the other ones will sometimes overlap, but that one is always just so unique because I don't know where I found it, but I love that question. So the 6th question I've been asking people as we get towards the holiday is, like, back when you were a kid, what was like your favorite, like if you had to name one gift that you got at Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate, what would be the one that you like the best?
The one gift that I hated the socks and all the other stuff that, you know.
you always dreaded those brown boxes coming out, right?
Yeah, that was terrible, man. Oh man. The one gift, I think money. The smart ones are the ones that gave me the envelope and the money, you know, like cut to the chase. And I think that was the best gift because I could buy whatever I wanted at that point, you know, which 9 times out of 10 was cheese doodles and candy.
Yeah. My go-to was always because we didn't have we didn't go to the movies a lot, but whenever we get money, like that's what I would do. It's like me and my brother would go to the movies for like and like we go see like 2 movies usually. Go for an afternoon on a Saturday.
Yeah,
in January when it's cold and there's nothing else to do.
exactly.
All right, man. Thanks. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. It was great,
No
great
problem.
chat for the
Thank
last
you.
hour.
Yes.
So if anyone wants to reach out to you on the internet and if you want to plug all your stuff again,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Anthony Lolli, ANTHONYLOLLI, and rbtshow.com. rbtshow.com is the website. And you can just, find me anywhere. Anthony Lolli, I'm on every different platform. If somebody's watching this video 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and there's a Blitter or Twitter, whatever it is, I'll be on that too for sure. So it'll be under my name. So no matter what it is, I'm always going to be out there, and I'm very excited, and please watch the documentary. You'll be inspired, and I'm actually very reachable. People are surprised. I have a team that help me with the social media, but for like the real important messages, I tell them, ping me. I want to talk to people myself, because I can't tell you how many lives have been changed, and I like to be personal, because that's why I started this in the beginning, in the first place.
Yeah, and that's awesome, because sometimes when you see people with like a large follower count, they're always like, they're not going to respond to me because you never know. And like I know even people like I'm not there, but I have like a couple thousand, and even then people are like, I'm surprised you responded to me. I'm like, as long as you're not a bot or trying to sell me something, some fake spam followers or whatever, like I usually respond.
Right.
Because I feel like sometimes people like they see what you're doing, and even when you're just in the middle of it, like they see what you're doing, they're like, I think if he can do it, I can kind of do it. And when I mentioned earlier my 191 days of steps, there's a friend of mine on Instagram who saw me doing that, and he was like in his 300s. He's like, well, if he can do it and it's like at like 400 or 500, I can do it. And so he did it, and he's usurped me because he does it like he's done like a year and a half almost. Right. I think he missed like 2 or 3 days.
Nice.
So on my end, it's just like that's just inspiring to me, because it's somebody that I inspired. It's kind of like a back and forth, like, because it's not all one way. Like you can reciprocate that inspiration.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I was going to mention you kind of look like Regan Grimes. I don't know if you know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
You look him up. He's a massive bodybuilder. Like by face, you look like you'll see the similarity.
All right. Yeah. I only know certain bodybuilders, and I used to watch wrestling a lot, so I know a lot of wrestlers, but never heard of him. But yeah. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for listening or watching this episode all the way to the end. You made it. Congratulations. Make sure you check out the show notes. I'll have links to all this stuff that Anthony mentioned during the show. Be sure to check out my website, becomingbrett.com. You can follow me on Becoming Brett on Instagram and Twitter, and the show on Becoming More Pod on Instagram. Until next time, make sure you come back and see how we can all become more.